So I've switched back to tubes, wide foot shoes, and Ortliebs' new pannier mounting system. Welcome everybody. This is the first in a newish format that I'm going to call Is It Any Good? It's going to be a review digest format where I talk about multiple products in one video, kind of eschew all the B-roll and just get to the point, the burning question that you guys are asking. Is it any good? Is it worth your money? So in that spirit, let's get into it. Let's talk TPU tubes. So yes, I have been running these Rene Herse TPU tubes in the Soma fog cutter behind me since day one. If you're not familiar with TPU tubes, they're kind of like funny inner tubes. They're different from your kind of normal bike tube that is black, rubbery, and tends to be really heavy. These feel more like a really strong plastic bag, super light, and it packs down really small. People have had problems with TPU tubes in the past, mostly around durability with the valve stem. Some TPU tubes use like a plastic or some kind of composite stem, and those would break when people use CO2 cartridges or whatever. These ones on the Rene Herse are metal. The valve core is removable, so you could squeeze some sealant in here if you want. Rene Herse recently has come out with a TPU sealant. When I first got these, I put these on some 700 by 40 Rene Herse tires, but because of all the rain, I actually bought another pair in 700 by 35, so I could run fenders on the Soma fog cutter. One of the early questions I got asked is, does it get funky if you go from like a larger size tire to a smaller size tire? Do these stretch out and deform in a way where it doesn't work? And in my experience, at least going from the 700 by 40 down to the 735, it wasn't an issue, but it worked fine. If you've never installed a TPU tube before, they're kind of weird. It's unlike a rubber tube in that they kind of hold their form and slip around the tire a lot more. You kind of have to chase it around to try to keep it in within the bead. So in about the 10 months I've been using the TPU tubes, I did get 2 punctures, which it didn't seal because there's no sealant. And both of them were from snake bite punctures. So I have a tendency to run my tire pressures a little bit on the low side. And I've been taking the 700 by 35 on gravel rides and smacked the rim a couple times, and that's how I got the flats. Nothing through an external puncture thus far. In terms of patching it, they do sell a patch kit, and it comes with some alcohol things so you can really clean the tube. And these are the patches. They're kind of just round discs. They do have an adhesive, and unlike a regular bike tube repair kit, there's no glue. You don't have to wait. It's almost instantaneous. Just by force of habit, I do apply pressure for a little while longer just to make sure it sits. You can actually see a repair here, and it's held up really well. I have not gotten a flat again. There's no leaking. It's sitting perfectly flush on the TPU tube itself. So in terms of patch repair, if you have to do it, it holds up. It's easy to do and is really durable. In terms of pack size, these things are super small. These are ridiculously light, easy to carry as spare. So why go TPU in 2025? I feel like it still makes sense, especially if you swap tires a lot. This is a much cleaner process. I don't think it makes sense for, like mountain biking, or if you're going to be biking somewhere with like a ton of goat heads, but for a road bike, an all-road bike, if you ride gravel where things are relatively, champagne gravel, then I think there's still value. They make great backups, even if you're running a tubeless system. I am curious about the new sealant that Rene Herse has put out. That might be like a best of both worlds, where it can, seal up small punctures like a snake bite, which I tend to get apparently, but isn't super messy. Another reason why tube makes sense is like some tires, especially the ones with really supple sidewalls, there's sealant bleeding. It's got to patch up all the holes. So this really forgoes all that. I found in my experience as well that the TPUs tend to hold their air pretty well, as opposed to a tubeless setup with tires that are really supple and they have a porous sidewall. There's also no topping up with sealant. So all the typical, good attributes of having a bike inner tube all apply to a TPU, but in a smaller and lighter package. The only downside is that they are expensive. I mean, these are 30 bucks. They're basically the price of like a cheap tire in 2025. If you're gonna go full on Rene Herse, I mean, you're talking, 90 bucks a tire, so 180 plus another 60 for the tubes. and it's expensive. I know there are cheaper options. I've not tried those. I may try them in the future. So I can only speak to my experience with the Rene Herse TPUs. And are they worth it? If you can afford it, absolutely. If I had all the money in the world, I'd probably get like another like 2 or 3 pairs of these. Expensive, but good. Highly recommend on road bikes, all road bikes. Probably not if you're going to be bike packing through goat head territory, but I think you should carry them anyways if you're running tubeless as a good kind of bailout option. So Rene Herse TPU tubes, is it any good? The answer is yes. All right, let's talk about these guys. These are the Strongfeet Athletics Leviathan shoe. What makes these unique is the last. They have a truly foot-shaped shoe. You can see this toe part does not bend in, doesn't squish the toes whatsoever. Your feet aren't gonna look like LeBron James's feet if you wear these shoes. This has a carbon sole, leather upper. It uses bow-like closures. There's 2 of them, so you can fine-tune the fit in the forefoot as well as the midfoot. One of the unique things about the shoe that's kind of hard to show is this material here. They're calling it a cat's tongue material. And like the name would suggest, in one direction, as you put your foot in, it's pretty smooth and frictionless. But in this direction, it does have little teeth, so it locks your foot in there a little bit better. This is the first time I've seen this in a shoe, and it's really cool. Like, I feel like this thing should be in every athletic shoe out there where you want like a good fit at the heel. This has a carbon sole, and you can use 3-bolt, 2-bolt cleats. I'm using Shimano SPDs, just that's what I'm used to. And on the scales, this one shoe weighs 416 grams, so not the lightest shoe out there. It's essentially a road shoe, so very stiff sole, not very walkable. So you guys know I'm a fan of foot-shaped shoes. This all started because many years ago when I got into trail running, I was running in ultras and really appreciated that shape. And since then, I've been looking for cycling-specific shoes. And there, until recently, have not been many options. Typically, to get the width I would want, I found that I would have to size up to like a 9, 9.5, when like the length of my foot was closer to like a 8. So what do I think of the last? I used their measuring system, and it predicted a really good fit. So if you go down this route, definitely take the time, look at how they want you to measure your foot. I think the last is great. My feet have never felt more free than ever in a cycling specific shoe. In fact, it was actually a little bit jarring, to be honest. So what do I mean by that? Because of the shape of the last, there's actually a fair amount of room, and I would feel my foot slide around a bit. To my mind, when I think cycling shoe, I think of something super constrictive, and nothing moves. So my initial inclination was actually to over tighten the shoe. So I'd really ratchet these guys down. But after about an hour, I felt like my foot was clearly too tight. So I loosened it up. There was a little bit of an adjustment period to get used to that. I don't want to use the word slop, but let's say free play within the shoe. But once I got over that hump, it felt super comfortable. Back when we were training for, what's now called Unbound, one of the issues I was having was finding a comfortable shoe because my feet would swell after like hour 4 or 5. I feel like this shoe definitely would have addressed that. And if you're the type of cyclist that runs into that issue where you're doing long rides and you find your feet swelling, then this is a shoe to check out. The materials feel like really good quality. It seems like it's nicely constructed. The leather on the outside seems like it can take a pretty good beating. There's not like a ton of exposed mesh except for on the tongue here. The aesthetics, some people aren't going to be able to get over the shape, but that's just how it is. For me, I sort of wish they came out with more of a gravel shoe or a mountain bike style shoe, something with a little bit of flex. These are very difficult to walk in, just like any road specific shoe. It's got these very hard, I don't know if they're rubber, but they're really like stiff plastic, so you definitely tend to skate around. This is not a shoe for gravel events, at least for me. One interesting thing to note about this shoe as well is that it's perfectly flat. It's zero drop, no bend, there's no bend or curvature to the bottom of the shoe. This is truly like the first like foot shape, zero drop cycling specific shoe I have personally seen. The MSRP on these is a little bit on the spendy side at $300, but seems like a bargain when you compare it to like the $600 Specialized shoes, which sort of try to emulate this, but from the photos don't look as foot shaped. So let's get down to the question, is it any good? If you're looking for a truly foot shaped zero drop shoe, then yes, absolutely. I think for the price and its uniqueness, it's definitely a good deal. I will say there's gonna be a bit of a learning curve in terms of figuring out how snug you wanna dial in the laces here. Because when you put your foot in, you're not going to be used to all that room, and there's going to be a inclination to really ratchet it down, and that kind of defeats the purpose. You're going to have to get used to that little bit of movement, that little bit of free play. In terms of who these are for, in my opinion, it's for the person that is already a barefoot or minimalist shoe user. So someone that trail runs with foot-shaped shoes, maybe is a big fan of Lems, and you like casual shoes with a wider toe box. It's for the person who this isn't their first rodeo. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think this is going to be the best first shoe for someone that wants a foot-shaped zero drop shoe experience. This is for someone that's already accustomed to that, prefers that, and just wants that in a cycling specific package. So is it any good? Yes, absolutely. Okay, so last thing we're going to talk about is this guy. This is the new Ortlieb QL 2.2, I believe, locking system. And basically that's a reference to these clips here. This is the Vario backpack in the 20-liter form. The colorway is, I believe, what they're calling pepper, so kind of like a black and white grayish texture. And it's nice because it doesn't scream like, you know, plastic or vinyl. It almost has like a cloth-like appearance to it. And just like the other Vario products, this converts into a backpack. But again, what's new here is the locking system. It used to be that in order to adjust these for specific size rails, there were these plastic inserts, all that stuff. But here you can adjust it on the fly. All you do is flip the switch here, and then this part moves. See if I can see, there it goes. This is in its widest position, and this is in its most narrow position. And you can do this all completely toolless. One nice thing about this is, although this is being rolled out with newer products, you can actually just update any bag to use this system. So that's pretty cool that Ortlieb is always thinking of backwards compatibility. They don't want you to waste things and throw a bag out just because they updated a new mounting system. And because of all that, is it any good? The answer is yes, absolutely. If you find yourself switching between multiple racks that happen to have different radii, and get annoyed that it's rattling around on the smaller diameter rack, then yes, absolutely, you should get this. Totally worth it. Yes, it is good. If you guys enjoyed this rapid fire, digest form review format, definitely subscribe. Also, please consider supporting the channel by joining us on Patreon, or you can pick up some merch. I finally got my very own Party Pace casual hat, and I dig it. These have a nice and soft kind of worn in feel, and they're actually low profile. Like, I don't like hats where I feel like, they're too big on your head. This is a little bit slouchy, more field cap style, and I'm stoked on it. Check out the merch store, join some Patreon if you want to support the channel, and as always, keep the supple side down.